Okay. Good morning, everybody. And good morning, everybody. I see levels on the pod track, and it looks like we've got audio. I've got Cameron with me this morning. Good morning. And before we get into Hunter Biden's sweetheart deal souring, I want to we got just a little under a month before the first Republican debate, and I would love to see us break $1,000 on Facebook and Rumble before that happens. So if you're watching right now, please go ahead and hit that share button, hit a thumbs up, and if you're not already subscribed, please do. We'd love to see you in the mornings. Tomorrow will be Firearms Friday, and we are definitely looking forward to that. And Danny says we have both minds this morning. Yes, ma'am, we aim to please. So, this morning, I mean, what else can we talk about?
UFOs?
Yes, because that is, wow. Holy shit, Hunter's gonna go to jail. Quick, everybody. Aliens!
Okay, that's fair. And I even had like a similar thought, and more than one person. I think Hotep Jesus on Twitter was like, oh, hey, a UFO hearing today, huh? But the UFO hearing was scheduled weeks ago, so it really is one of those things where sometimes...
Yeah, but so was this court date.
Yes, I understand. I really do.
In fact, I dare say the court date was scheduled before the UFO hearing.
Yeah, look, I'm clear, but I think in this case, this is one of those things where kind of the natural memetics of it are funnier than anything anybody intended, because yeah.
Well,
and it's sad that we live in and it's really sad that we live in a world where somebody testified in front of Congress again about he called them like non-human entities. Non-human biologics. That's what it was. Yeah. And most of us are just meh.
And, I mean, Tim Pool pointed out, he kept saying that a non-human biologic was found in an off-Earth vessel. And he pointed out, that could be a cat in a weather balloon. By definition.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, there we go. And I think that's exactly why most of us, we've been lied to by the news about, I don't know, things like Hunter Biden's laptop.
Right.
For example, the fact that somebody went in front of Congress and he didn't exactly say, oh, yeah, we got alien bodies.
Right.
But he sure as hell implied.
He did. He went out of his way to imply it without explicitly stating it. But let's get to Hunter. So I'll say this. I got to respect the game Hunter Biden, his theme song is one of my favorite tracks ever. Send lawyers, guns, and money. The shit has hit the fan. I mean, all day long. Send lawyers, guns, and money. What we're seeing with the Biden plea deal, let's just back up a little bit to what the plea deal actually is. Xander Mack, you're watching this morning. I got a thing I want to ask you about in a minute, but what we're looking at, we back up to what the actual plea deal is, and here are the basic facts. Hunter Biden is clearly and obviously guilty on the evidence of an absolute host of very serious crimes, most serious among them, apart from the felony gun charge, which I have some quibbles about, but it is a statement of fact that Hunter Biden committed a serious felony with relation to his possession of a firearm as a drug addict. I've got some problems with that being illegal, but the fact that it is illegal is not in question. I think I've said that in the right order. But his host of obvious crimes, like he has clearly engaged in representation as an official U.S. representative without official declaration. This is a series of these are the crimes that essentially they accused General Flynn of and others, with substantially less evidence to corroborate the accusation. And then it's painfully clear from the evidence that we've seen from Hunter's laptop that he's been engaged in, at a minimum, prostitution, and quite probably as at least a customer for the industry of sex trafficking. It also appears that he has had more than a little bit of dalliance with underage prostitutes, and those encounters have also involved substantial illicit drug use. So then we find ourselves looking at a plea deal wherein the majority of that goes unmentioned. He pleads guilty to 2 very generously reduced tax crimes as misdemeanors, and has his gun felony expunged. If anybody is surprised to see a Democrat serial criminal getting special treatment by the Department of Justice, which belongs to his father currently residing in the White House, then you haven't been paying attention. But the deal gets in front of a judge, and we're going to talk about this a little bit too. This is, in fact, a Trump-appointed judge, and that is going to be a big piece of the narrative going forward. Now, we're talking about a Trump-appointed judge, Maryellen Noreika, who was overwhelmingly a bipartisan approval. But it's going to be thrown out there that, oh no, she's just paying Trump back for getting her appointed. This is that kind of a thing. And I say, you know what? Let's just say, for the sake of argument, for a moment, that is in fact the case. If we're looking at absolute corruption and complete overtake by the of the DOJ, by the administration, by obviously an individual party, and the deep corruption of a party in power, then that there is a cogent actor representing the opposition party in that scenario, I think is a blessing at least. So, Cam, do you have anything to add before we
start looking at some articles? A couple of things real quick. I don't just have quibbles with the gun charge. I don't think Hunter Biden should have been charged with a gun crime because I don't think American citizens should be charged with gun crimes. Full stop. Full stop.
The only reason I say I have a quibble here is because while I agree with you 100% that no gun law is constitutionally tolerable, the fact remains that whether or not the system we exist in currently is constitutionally tolerable.
Yeah, I know.
It is the system in which we currently exist.
No, I'm not saying that he didn't break laws that were on the books. He obviously broke laws that were on the books. I'm just saying that it's still an infringement. Just because you're a piece of shit doesn't mean you forfeit your right to life.
And with that, breaking laws to make the argument that so that you can get in court and make the argument and challenge the law, civil disobedience for the sake of exposing and overturning and destroying unjust laws. Buddy, early on, there was a rumor, at least, that Hunter's lawyers were going to argue that the gun charge was a Second Amendment rights infringement. And I suspect that the only reason they haven't actually gone down that route is because of the political damage it would do to Biden's aggressive anti-gun policy. But buddy, I tell you what, I'd have been all for that. I'd have been absolutely all over covering those hearings if they had actually gone that route.
So anyhow,
so like I said, I agree with you on what should be the case. But I'm talking about what is the case.
I get that. And I still say exactly what I said. I said exactly what I meant to say. So the other thing is to really simplify this, and I prefer to simplify things because I hate legalese. I've said this before. I hate reading it. I hate hearing it. Sometimes...
Well, try not to shit on me when I explain the amicus curiae later.
Well, it depends on how you explain it. Are you going to explain it with a bunch of circumlocution, or are you going to sum it up in a handful of words?
No, I'll completely dismiss all my Sesquipedalianism and go directly down the middle of that particular hair part.
So... But super long story short, for now, granted, this is me reading other people, okay? Because I hate legalese. Sometimes, y'all, I go back and I have been divorced and I read my divorce paperwork and I'm like, God, this is a lot of words for us to say. We're done. We need to split our shit 50-50. Like, it is woo. Anyhow.
Could have done this in 2 sentences. Bitch was crazy. She took my shit.
Anyhow, there's a federal statute that's got an A part, a B part, and a C part, and like most laws, it's broken up into things. And it is actually not unheard of to get a plea deal. And the plea deal says, and you know what? We won't bring any more charges against you if you A and you B and you C and you D. Like if you are a drug addict and you complete 1 year of probation and 40 hours of community service and complete 12 drug rehabilitation classes, that judge might say, there might be other drug-related charges that'll come out in the wash against you. But you know what? We'll decline to prosecute those charges if you complete all of these things.
Now, to be clear...
I'm being clear.
No. This is important when we're talking about a deal at this level. To be clear, other charges for crimes which you have committed previously may come out in the process. The we'll decline to prosecute in the future does not mean you can get away with shit later.
And thanks, I was getting there.
Okay.
Anyhow, what happened to the Hunter Biden case was they tried to do that, but they tried to do it with some old switcheroo type stuff. Okay, that's what they did. They said, "Hey, we're gonna do a similar plea deal, and we're gonna say no more charges can be brought against Hunter Biden if he completes a few little stipulations." It's actually, he was going to do something called a pretrial diversion, not an uncommon thing that happens in the criminal justice system, and it's exactly what it sounds like it is: a pre-trial diversion. Never goes to trial.
Right.
Sometimes it's exactly what it says on the 10.
Hey, I'm headed to trial. Oh, that's shiny.
But this was the sneaky little shit here. They kind of didn't mention that there was an ongoing investigation with Hunter Biden and foreign national stuff. And the thing is, they could have mentioned it and still actually asked for it in the plea deal. Now, most judges would say, no, these are not related crimes.
Right.
So you don't get this as part of your plea deal. But yeah, as you said in the opening of the show, Hunter Biden actually appears to be guilty of that which they accused General Flynn of and ruined his life and hamstrung Donald Trump's foreign policy in so doing. Hunter Biden appears to actually be guilty of this, and the lawyers involved tried to pull this sneaky little switcheroo and make him immune to that without actually being upfront about the fact that they were trying to make him immune to it. And this judge was like, well, gosh, now hold on a minute. Something's wrong with this paperwork. Come here, let's talk about this real quick. And in so doing and talking about it, that is what made this deal fall apart.
Now, Hunter finds himself now in a position that is interesting, and it's actually somewhat analogous to the McMichaels case. Ready for this? Hunter walked into a courtroom and said, "I am prepared to plead guilty to these charges in compliance with this deal, which will have these results." And the judge shut down the plea deal, and then Hunter entered a plea of not guilty on the same charges. What happened in the McMichaels case is they went in there and explained, I was in fact holding the gun when it went off and killed Ahmaud Arbery. And I'm justified for reasons of self-defense related to the application of a legal citizen's arrest, et cetera, et cetera. He went in and said, this is what happened. These are the facts, and the law, as I understand it, says that I'm good for these reasons. And then the judge said, yeah, but we're going to ignore the law there. So you already admitted to doing the thing, and now we're going to treat the case based on that admission. So in fair play. Now, this is a little different in that what this judge has done is, instead of taking the law as it's written and ignoring it, this judge has taken the law and examined the case and said, now, hold on a minute. We're not going to ignore the law for your benefit. We're just not going to do that. We're not going to pretend, just for the political benefit of the current administration, that the law has a great big blind spot where his loin fruit sits. We're not going to play that game.
I don't know that I would agree with that, but getting bogged down in that part of it, like, let's just focus on Hunter and this deal, or this not deal.
Okay, so anyway, Delaware Federal District Judge Maryellen Noreika, who is an appointee of former President Donald Trump, because that's super important, guys, threw a curveball during the court hearing for Hunter Biden's sweetheart plea deal, which resulted in the first son pleading not guilty. This right here threw a curveball. It's not a curveball. She said, but there's law, and we're here in the business of law. Noreika, who was also a former patent lawyer from the state, see, it's just going to be attack after attack on this poor judge, appeared poised to reject the agreement that would avoid a felony gun charge and result in a guilty plea to 2 tax misdemeanor charges. However, the younger Biden instead pleaded not guilty after the prosecution revealed the investigation is ongoing. And I'm actually not clear on this. I'd love to have a conversation with a trial attorney about this. Having already admitted guilt, right? He hasn't pled guilty in court technically, but he has admitted guilt explicitly and then gone into court and entered a plea of not guilty. I don't think it does, but that feels to me like it should count as perjury. Because he's going into the court and he's telling the judge. He's telling the judge intentionally a thing which he knows not to be true.
No, that's not. Unfortunately, I have some experience with the criminal justice world, and I can tell you that guilty people plead innocent, and innocent people plead guilty in order to make things go away. Just because somebody was willing to sign a plea deal is in no way indication of perjury, and outside of the technical bounds of the law, not even an indication of their innocence or guilt. There are people that do things to make charges go away, because paying $1,000 fine and not having a record versus paying, God knows, $20,000 in attorney's fees and then having something permanently go on your record. There are people that do that math all the time, pay the $1,000 fine and put something behind them. Like that is a thing that happens.
I understand that. I do. And like Dad says, no, a plea deal doesn't equal saying I am guilty. I get that. What I'm saying is, in this case, especially since we're talking about people who are more than happy to simply ignore the law for an outcome, we have him preparing a guilty plea. He is essentially confessed to his crimes and then gone in and entered the plea of not guilty. I'm not saying that is perjury. I'm saying it feels like it should be. I'm saying no reasonable person can look at this and say that Hunter Biden saying he's not guilty is anything other than a bald-faced lie. And not he misunderstands, not he's saying something that's untrue in good faith, but he is intentionally speaking falsely. He is intentionally lying. He's delivering, dare I say it, disinformation.
Yeah, but
I'm not making a legal argument here. I'm making a philosophical and logical argument. The fact is that he's lying by saying he's not guilty.
I think this is a real hair splitter, because people plead not guilty and lie in pleading not guilty all the time, and people plead guilty and lie by pleading guilty all the time. The justice, it's the pursuit of justice, not the pursuit of truth. Truth and justice often intertwine, but the outcome is for justice, not the outcome for truth. So I get what you're saying, but in reality, the legal situation is often far more complex. Now, with regard to Hunter, yes, it's so obvious to the vast majority of us that Hunter is such a giant piece of shit he could play Mr. Hanky in the South Park live action movie. Okay, I'm with you.
Hi-ho.
But that's not what blew any of this up. And it's actually pretty common for somebody to say, hey, you know what? Depending on the terms of the plea deal, I might just take a plea deal instead of taking this to court. It goes through its first couple of layers. And in those first couple of layers, the defendant doesn't like the plea deal. So they plead not guilty, even though they've indicated I'm willing to do a plea deal. And then what'll happen is it'll get about this close to going to trial. And then the prosecution and the defense will actually be able to work out something that is tolerable to the defendant. That's what happened here. He changed his plea to not guilty to buy himself time to get the maximum amount on his plea deal that he could possibly get. It's not...
No,
I'm not saying that you're not.
I understand all of that. I'm just calling the fucking shitburger a liar.
Okay. Well,
I'm quite clear on how the procedure works. My point is, he's a fucking liar. I even made it a point to say that I'm not talking about a question of law.
right. Anyhow.
And Alex, shit, it's already 4. We're almost out of time, and we have to stick to it this morning. Alex points out the judge realized that there was the potential for FARA charges, and the deal would have immunized him, so he refused to sign off. And that's what we were getting to there. I mentioned earlier that part of what he was being charged with, FARA charges. We might even make reference to the Hatch Act in this regard, but. That is a huge piece of the problem, is that the judge noticed in the plea deal it essentially offered this blanket immunity which would have indemnified Hunter against future charges for crimes that he's committed in the past. And it looks like Hunter's attorneys attempted to make that blanket immunity apply to things other than his criminal activity regarding tax evasion, tax fraud, and federal gun crimes. And there is an investigation ongoing currently. So the judge asked apparently several times, and there was some dodgery trying not to answer the question, is there an investigation ongoing? Noreika had expressed frustration with attorneys on Wednesday when she asked prosecutors if investigations into Biden were ongoing. When prosecutors told her there is still an active investigation into the president's son, she asked why the process was moving forward piecemeal. And Noreika has experienced in several legal cases over her years on and off the bench. She oversaw a lawsuit filed against Rep. Adam Schiff by the owner of a Delaware computer repair shop, the same shop where Hunter Biden dropped off and left behind his now famous laptop hard drive in April 2019. Ruled that the suit against Schiff would be dismissed. However, litigation involving the younger Biden and news outlets CNN and Politico, also named in the lawsuit, would be allowed to play out in the state's courts. So, that right there is a strike in her favor as far as the argument of bias, because she allowed, Schiff got away with it. But as we're looking at this unfolding, it looks very much like the DOJ was attempting to shield Hunter Biden personally from charges that are likely to arise through the course of these investigations related to the corruption and influence peddling involved with Hunter's dealings with Burisma, with the Ukrainian government, with the Chinese Communist Party, and a host of other hostile foreign actors, all of whom appear to have been actively laundering money into the Biden's campaign treasury for years. And I suspect, because we know Hillary Clinton was similarly funded, that we're going to find that the Democrat National Party at large, writ large, has been funded through similar foreign influence purchasing, money laundering operations for the entire period of living memory.
Steve is so desperate for us to talk about aliens. He obviously missed the first 6 minutes of the show.
The first 15 minutes.
I wish we were talking about aliens.
I hate to do it. I got to put a pin in it there because I've got to be gone in just a minute. So is there anything you want to close on, Cameron?
No, just I think Alex said it well in the comments that the judge is no one's fool. And
agreed.
And, you just got to wonder, like, hey, how come Hunter's attorneys didn't just try and be transparent? Like I said, they could have put this in their original plea deal and been transparent about it. Now, most judges would have rejected it, but it's not impossible that they could have gotten this as part of the plea deal and gotten immunity from these charges as part of the plea deal. And then B, if the DOJ is investigating this, the same DOJ that that, I don't know, for example, decided, now this is James Comey specifically, but this is the same DOJ that decided, well, Hillary Clinton didn't do anything malicious, even though she's guilty of being, at best, grossly negligent with all this classified information. She didn't do anything malicious, so we're not going to prosecute. Well, how come the DOJ and Merrick fucking Garland... We need a nasty derisive nickname for him, by the way. But how come Merrick Garland and the DOJ cannot think of some convoluted, well, it looks like Hunter did it, but he's not a bad guy, so we're not going to prosecute, or we are going to prosecute, but we're going to prosecute the lesser version of the crime. Like, why did it have to be this way, where we deliberately attempted to trick a judge? Judges don't like to be tricked, man. Judges tend to have
Unless
egos.
they sit on a FISA court.
Judges tend to have egos, you know, and they don't like those egos being crossed, you know?
Yeah, you don't cross the judge's ego unless they're on the FISA court and your FBI payroll.
Anyhow.
But yeah, we got to put a button in it there. Thanks for watching this morning, guys. We love you. And this story is probably not over. I'm sure we'll come back to it. At least I would be surprised if we're not back on this story again next week. There's more that I wanted to cover this morning that we just don't have time for. But we love you, and we will see you tomorrow.